Good afternoon, everyone. Today's Tuesday, May 24th, 2022. Time is 1:31 p.m. Special meeting agenda with community development headed by David Callahan, and officially calling the meeting to order, attending Commissioners Duncan and Filios. Commissioner Bill Brooks is excused. Do we have any changes to the agenda? Hearing none. A couple of business proposals. One is a proposed fee schedule increase for the building division. For fees, that's a discussion. Why don't we take that up first? Go right ahead, David.
Actually, Commissioners, it's for the entire department.
Okay?
I just wanted you to have the opportunity to know that on your regular business agenda, you'll have a new fee schedule that has an across-the-board 5% for everything we do except building. And that was, our thinking was simply that you know better than most what CIP and other indices are showing. We thought it was just good
You mean
business.
CPI?
Thank you. Brain slip. It's just good business practice to keep up with these things in that way. For the building fees, though, it's a little bit more interesting because we haven't actually tracked where we are until Christina did an analysis this year in comparison to our other communities like Rathdrum and Post Falls and Coeur d'Alene. Turns out we were way behind. So Christina's done an average and used good practice so that the numbers in front of you, we think, put us right in the median of what all of the other communities we work with are charging. And she's here if you have questions about that. But really, that's it. Just wanted you to be prepared so you know why and how we did what we've done.
And it's not this business meeting, it's next, right? May 31st?
It's not
Okay.
Today, okay.
So my question, so the building fees are also coming before us as well as the 5%?
Yes.
All of them. So I guess my concern is, that's great to look at other areas and what they're charging, but that's not necessarily what it costs Kootenai County to do that work.
Well, that, of course, is part of our
Yeah, it
starting
has to be,
point.
doesn't it?
Right, yeah,
We don't do anything beyond that.
okay. I just wanted to make sure that that was taken into consideration.
Thank you.
Okay,
Because you can't turn a profit.
Right.
Well, and neither can the cities.
Neither
but
can the city.
right. Yes, but sometimes efficiencies or, you
Their
know,
costs would be different than ours.
right, or more ordinances or whatever it could be, yeah.
I haven't looked at every single number. My sense of this is we are still at the median or lower than most everyone else.
Sure. Okay,
So that's really all for that unless you have questions.
So it's basically done.
Yes, sir.
That is, the fees are worked up. and
We're
ready to be
comfortable
presented.
with it. We hope you will be. And it'll be in front of you at the next business meeting.
Cool.
Actually, sorry, David, they did bring up, because there'd be at least some fees that go up more than 5%, we'd have to schedule this for public hearing. So,
On the building side?
Yeah.
yeah, but the 28 days doesn't apply, it's just a 14 and
14
7
day
day.
notice.
Yeah,
okay.
Oh, well, okay. Well, we'll just have to adjust
Just
accordingly.
schedule it.
sorry about that.
Well, I'm glad you brought it up. Thanks.
Yeah,
Okay,
and I think we have to give notice to groups like NIBCA and that kind of thing also.
That's why we have these meetings.
yeah. Thank you,
You
Pat.
okay then?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, second item. Cougar Gulch Residence Property Owners Rezoning Proposal and Associated Costs Discussion. Go ahead, David.
You remember the discussion we last had about what I laid out as the actual cost. And as we discussed, I got back to my contact with the Cougar Gulch neighborhood, and that's Carl Meyer. He's here today. And Carl wanted to actually ask you to do something different. So I said, rather than me be the go-between, why don't you just show up? And so he's here. So I think the bottom line is the neighborhood would rather not pay for these things, but you would best hear from Carl as to why. And I did forward to you, if you've had time to read,
We
the
did.
write-up.
Yeah, we both have it.
We both
Yeah.
have it, yep.
So,
Thoughts?
yeah, I mean, I don't mind hearing from him. I mean,
Carl?
so,
Feel free. Just hit the button so it turns green and it's unidirectional. So
Yeah.
omnidirectional.
Well, thank you. First of all, is there any questions on what was written? So I can address those, and if there's any other anecdotal or other information you'd like to have, I'd be able to share that.
So today, I think we are just kind of discussing the rezoning proposal and the associated costs. We have pretty narrow. You delved into some other stuff in your letter, so we want to make sure we kind of stick to what the agenda says.
Okay. Well, relative to the rezoning proposal, the petition that's gone out, I think it's hopefully relatively understood that a large number of residents have had water problems for some time. And as we see new development going on, while those residents are having water problems, the redrilling, the bringing in of water, adding cisterns, the cost for home ownership is relatively high. And those new homeowners that have just developed are realizing that, because even outside of what I've written, there's another homeowner that is still in completion, had to already drill another well. The race to the bottom in this case shouldn't be see how far you can go and how many wells you can drill on your property. That would leave a good large number of the residents out of water completely, and that would be a complete disaster. I think if you look back in time and how the county had originally zoned the property, it appeared to me, this is purely an assumption, that at one point the city would be annexed, and therefore having that part south of the river looked attractive, and quite frankly it does. But as we know, time goes on, that didn't happen. Here we are today, and a large number of the residents, if I could have them all here and you'd hear all their stories, we'd be here for hours. I mean hours, as both David and Chris can testify. So the proposal itself is one thing, and having started the grassroots, because once they came out and visited us to, basically kind of a town hall meeting, the only real discussion was water. And we had the community hall pretty well filled at that point. Because I asked most of the questions, sat closest to the front of the room, I have no idea. Someone came up to me and my wife said, well, it looks like you guys are going to run with this. Like, I've never done this before. So having the charge to try to get and bring this awareness to the county as much as possible, we decided to make it a 100% outreach to every resident that's out there that this proposal for rezoning needs to happen. And to date, with all those that have been approached, it's less than a handful that says, I will not sign the petition. Whereas we've got people from neighboring communities that we didn't even go out and try to inform about this, or want to sign and support it as well. So this issue has gotten to be much larger than even we had realized. And so I urge the county to continue to look, because the last thing we want to do is, again, as I talk about race to the bottom, the valuation of the property start going down. We have residents that no longer can live here because they can't survive a water shortage, to either try to augment that, supplement that. There is just no way to that they can figure that out. So in this particular case, it is certainly my opinion, and hopefully yours as well, that we've done everything we could to help the county be in a position to be successful, to one, help us rezone, two, pay for those legal costs to get it done. We have not left anything out. We've not added anything. We've informed the residents of why we're doing this, and like I said, to the super duper majority, we are likely at 75%, with more coming in at this point for requesting this change. So with that, and all the time that's spent, we're hoping that that Kootenai County Board of Commissioners realizes that this has not cost us nothing, right? I'm not into double negatives, but this has cost us something relative to time, efforts, gasoline, stamps, letters, letterhead, whatever you want to call it. And we've done everything we can to make sure that our constituents are aware of what we're doing, how we're trying to do it. And I almost feel like we've done this on behalf of the county. And quite surprised that the county was unaware that we have such water problems out there. So the change is requested, and the associated costs for those changes are also being requested.
Okay. So if I'm not mistaken, Cougar Gulch, as in other areas, is currently split zoned, some 2 acres, some 5. And I don't know how it breaks out, but,
It's mostly agricultural suburban, but there is some other rural nearby,
5 acre.
and even, it may even be restricted residential further.
If I can address that, Cougar Gulch, by definition from the county, as David had given me, goes all the way to state line. So if you look at, on a map, land-wise, it's far bigger than what we're talking about in
Here.
our area. So
Right,
if you go
right.
from Greens Ferry Road to Highway 95, and then basically north to Highland Drive, and the property lines just south of that, that's our little area. It's 3, 4, 5 times larger if you keep going west
going
towards
west.
state line.
Sure.
And then south of us, immediately south of us, is also 5 acre park. We are kind of in a unique situation, and I'm assuming back in 73, when it was originally zoned, that it appeared it could be annexed one day at some time, whatever that may be, and why it was initially set for 2 acres. Again, purely an assumption. I can't go back 50 years, none of us can.
Sure.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
So, how many parcels are we talking about?
Roughly 340 parcels to date, and 2 or 3 of those are quite large, meaning they are in the 80 acre plus range, and they do have developers as property owners, and even they were notified with our petition what we're trying to do. And I'm assuming, again, not having done this before, not trying to go out and tackle this from one end only. I'm objective, so I like to hit things on all sides. That they too want to realize that there's a water issue, so when they do develop, that their future, buyers, owners of those properties will be aware of the same situation, not to put them out as well. I mean, current residents are already feeling the issue.
Right.
It only exacerbates if we add more. But there are large ones, so be aware of that, but most of them are already in the, I would say, 5 to 10 acre range to date. So we're really not putting anybody out. There are a few that are below 5 acres today, and of course, we're asking for them to be grandfathered because they would have no idea prior to, obviously, this decision.
Sure. And the process is going to allow the public opportunity to comment on that. I'm in favor of, grassroots efforts, groups coming together and for doing a change for the good. My issue is if there are parcels that want to opt out, we're going to have to deal with those. And then the other thing is it's about $8 a parcel to get this done. I have concern with covering because what happens is the rest of the county is subsidizing what this group wants to do. And if we do it for your group, then what about the next group that comes and the next group? So we're $8 a parcel. I think it's kind of a bargain to get this affected, if that makes sense.
I understand the point. What we're basically stating is that this shouldn't, the county should have already recognized that being in this position, we shouldn't have had to make this change. For years, this has gone on. And yet the development in the area continues to bring in new constituents. And I'm not opposed to development at all. The valuations for those that already own the property and what they plan to do with the larger ones. I just want people to be aware that with the water issue, this is just one step in a long chain process that I see needing to be addressed for the residents down there. And we're not looking at this as some sort of precedence being set or offset. This is a decision I think the county should have made, again, before even your tenures. And in so doing, those that are already having to deal with the water are paying even more today than they were before because of the problems.
Right.
And now we're asking them to pay even more to try to make a change.
So I guess maybe where the line is the county is not required to make sure that people have so much water. We did change the code so many years ago, so now they do have to come up with a reasonable standard. But it's not like the county's been negligent in changing this zoning because of the water issues. That's not really how it's set up legally. So if the residents want to get together and do this, I'm in favor of going down that trail and making sure that, we go through the legal process. But once again, for $8 a parcel, I'm not really seeing why people in Athol or people on the east side of the lake should be subsidizing this change. And there are pockets throughout the county who have the exact same thing. Pleasant View was before us. I don't know if it's been 2 years now. I think it was pre-COVID. With the exact same thing, because they're on Rock and Fissure as well. And so I want to be sure that we're treating everybody in the county the same.
And we can do that by establishing a threshold, where you can say, look, if you have a petition, and I'll just throw a figure out there that says 60% of the people are in favor, or 65%, whatever that is, then we'll fund it. But if it's anything less than that, then it's on the residents. But I think to Carl's point, you guys have, we do have a changed ordinance, but obviously the ordinance has no way of predicting the future capability. And I see what you guys have gone through, not just in Cougar Gulch. We have issues, as you said, out near State Line, Micah Flats. So I don't have an issue in picking this tab up, given what you guys have already gone through and given that you have a 75% favorability rating. And to Leslie's point, and she makes a valid point, we can set a threshold going forward that says, look, if you want us to take this up and pay for it, you're going to have to produce some sort of meet a threshold.
But we're not in any kind of position to set that today.
No. Pat, did you want to comment? Is it our call?
Microphone. Thank you.
Thank you. Just basically, well, part of it depends on whether it's, if the residents get together and actually file an application for a zone change, then at some point you'll be the ultimate body to consider that and decide whether to do it or not. Of course, we'll go through the planning commission first, and they would make a recommendation that you would also consider at that time.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is we've got to go through the process anyway.
Yeah,
And in the course of doing that, we can make that decision.
yeah, that would be the appropriate time and place to
Okay.
make that decision. We can't
Okay.
make it now.
Correct.
Or you could give authority for David to initiate that, and then we go from there at that point. But you can certainly require the people in the neighborhood that are, that desire this to put in an application, pay the fee and all that. The notices to the neighbors. That's certainly within your prerogative to do.
Go ahead, David.
I need to catch Pat up on some of what's already happened. We've already been past that point.
Okay.
I've presented to the board that we have a petition with
We have a
over
petition.
60% of the
Yeah,
population.
and
the board did authorize us to proceed on a legislative
Okay,
matter. But now we're stuck at who pays for what.
right.
Okay. And normally it wouldn't be an issue because normally the applicant would pay for everything.
That's kind of where I'm at. So,
You're saying as we go through the public hearing process.
Well, what I'm saying is we have a discretionary point right now, to me. Normally, you don't have this discretion because normally the applicant pays for everything, including the public notice, postcards, the newspaper notice, and anything else that goes along with any project.
Right.
Including the filing fee, which in this case is $2,080.
But also in most cases, the petitions that come before us have not
Well,
incurred this level of expense.
In most cases, there are no petitions.
Okay, that's right.
It's an application.
It's an application.
So here you have an unusual case where you've already authorized it to go forward as a legislative matter. We just need to decide who's going to pay for what,
Well, I don't have a problem in our paying for it.
okay? And you're at a stalemate.
yep.
you want to wait till Bill gets in?
Yeah, I
or
guess
do you
we'll-
wanna
Well,
do
we
it?
don't have an action
don't have an
item
action
in
item.
anyway.
Right,
Yeah.
True.
right. Okay, well, we'll just do that then.
Okay.
Okay, so what is our next step aside from that?
Well, assuming that we get the fees worked out, then I would like to do a neighborhood meeting with a postcard notice like you and I did, and Zoom it, so that anyone can dialogue with the staff about what's going on,
Yeah.
and how we're gonna go forward.
Particularly given the number of the owners are out of state, that would
Right.
enable their
So that would be
participation.
a first step. And depending on how that goes, we might need to do that another time or two, maybe not. Maybe, you know, when everyone's on board, we schedule for a workshop with the Plan Commission, then a public hearing with the Plan Commission, then in front of you as a public hearing.
Okay, so basically, step one is, for lack of a better term, public meeting.
Yes, sir.
Okay, which would be conducted here?
I
Because you're
prefer
going
to
to
do
need
it
the Zoom
out.
facilities?
Well, we can, but I would want to talk with Carl about.
Okay, all
Would
right.
it be useful to do it at the Grange again, since we can Zoom it,
Yeah,
or what? I'm open to
okay,
suggestions.
whatever, we can work that out.
Right.
Okay. Carl, thoughts?
I think, and please understand where I come from in this position. When the two of you were out on March 14th and had your town hall meeting, and again, I thank you for at least doing that, and we talked petition, when that action started and the grassroots effort that evening, there was no discussion of any filing fee. Okay, so there was no awareness that a filing fee would be, was $2,000. Okay, and Ms. Duncan, respectfully, even though it might be $8 per parcel, even with all the parcels, some participating or not participating, I don't believe it's the value that is of stake here. To me, the stake is ownership of understanding why we're doing this and how we've done this, and the fact that as we've gone through the process, the goalposts keep getting placed in front of us and moved further back. And so as we've honestly gone out through this and get to everybody that we possibly could, including yourselves, we wanted to make sure that this was going to pass, not have any more stumbling or roadblocks in front of it, purely because all the residents have become frustrated. And I'm trying to remove that frustration. And the steering committee is well aware, because they're all having issues, and everyone they talk to, well, we've had issues. So this isn't something that's really purely about the dollars. It's about what's doing it right. And doing it right is having the county recognize you've done everything you possibly could. And yet we keep throwing something else at you. And yet you keep going, moving through that. If you told me we needed to have 80%, I would bet you we'd have 80% signature, because that's how dire the situation is. So going back to the costs, whether the card deck for the, postcards, sending it out for the meeting, whether there's one or two meetings, it'll be just more cost that being expected to, upheld by ourselves. And with a $2,000 filing fee, I don't believe when we started this that if that was presented, that would have changed anything. But I am a little disappointed that it keeps getting thrown up. There's something new hoop that we have to, jump through to get this completed. And that, to me, should come to an end if we can agree that what you're doing is right, how you're doing it is correct, and the keeping, Cougar Gulch Community Rural Campaign is what it's turned into, is something that is best for the county.
And who is the one who started this? Who is the one who came up with the idea, hey, we should rezone this area?
That was my idea,
Okay.
at the public meeting that we had.
Sure. So it's very difficult to be able to tell you from start to finish how things are going to play out and everything. So our director does not have really the authority or the ability to come see in the future and say, okay, well, there costs money to do a zone change and all that. So it's not really, I'm sorry that you feel it's a stumbling block, but I have to be aware of everybody in the county. And so, yes, it does seem like a very small amount, but this benefits your group. It really doesn't benefit the rest of the county, and I'm happy to support it going forward, and I don't have a problem with that. It's just, I think that nowadays, especially, we can't be expecting other people to subsidize what we want to do. And that's why we're having to raise fees and why there's a bunch of other turmoil in the county. So respectfully, that's just my position, and, we'll just move forward and in the process.
Understood. I think, and my final comment would be, it would be pretty devastating to the residents if they're expected to pay and the approval of this petition would be to be denied. And I think we need to be aware of that, that we're trying to do everything above board and with complete reproach. So I hope that is understood by the board so that we can, move forward with this.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are three of us, so everything is a vote of 2 out of 3. So Bill's not here right now, and we didn't call for an action item, so we can't legally take a vote. I understand the argument. For me, there's a broader question here. This may not be the appropriate time, but I'm going to bring it up. Pat, I'm a resident of Cougar Gulch. I do not own the property. Our daughter does. She is zoned ag suburban. So if I support this proposal, it actually works against her because she's going to have to downzone to a 5-acre minimum.
But not if that's what she wants to do. So it benefits her if that's what she wants.
Your real legal question is,
Well, okay,
is this
go
a
ahead.
conflict of interest?
Should I recuse?
Erring on the side of being conservative, I would say yes.
Go ahead.
I mean, certainly we can reevaluate that as we would get closer to the hearing as, to whether, what's your daughter's position on this, how it could benefit versus, possibly lose value as a result.
So would it help to get a statement from her as the owner?
Well, can we do this?
Well, we don't have to do this now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not.
You
We've
should
got a
do this
business
offline
meeting.
with your legal
Yeah, we'll do it
counsel.
offline, anyway.
Yeah.
Because you're
Well, no,
opening
but
us up to,
In Carl's presence, I wanted him to be aware of that, so.
Okay.
Okay. And for
So
public
I'll make that not my final answer, but that was just my first
Okay,
impression.
fair enough.
thank you.
Anything else? Public comment? None? Okay. 1:59, meeting adjourned. Thank you. Thanks, Carl.